Gen Friends. We're so glad you're joining us. I'm your host, Cheri Hudson Passey from Carolina Girl Genealogy. We've got a wonderful panel and a fun little activity that we're going to do tonight. We've got Dan Earl, our family history guy, whose video is driving him crazy tonight, but we want him here. So,
Right.
hey,
It's a
Dan.
short drive from where I'm at to Crazy Town. So
Yes.
As you can tell from his video. We've got Laura Hedgecock from Treasure Chest of Memories. Hi, Laura.
Hi, I'm afraid to move my hand so it won't interfere with Dan's video. So this is kind of a little Queen's wave.
And last but not least, because she's going to be our expert, she is our expert tonight. We have got Melissa Barker, our archive lady. We're going to do another edition of Ask the Archivist.
Yay.
We love doing this because everybody's got stuff and we want to know how to take care of it. So
Absolutely.
we're gonna get started with you, Melissa. You had a couple of things that you wanted to just kind of start out with telling us. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, thanks for having me. And I love doing this because I love helping people take care of their stuff. And if you take care of your stuff, that means that your descendants, it will last for them and they'll enjoy it. I wish I had ancestors that would have taken care of things and left things for me. So working in an archives, though, we see it all, just like, anything else, we see it all. But there are some things that are a true no-no that we should not do. And the first one, I'm going to share my screen, is these sticky magnetic photo albums. Archivists love to hate these because they're awful. They were produced back in the 1960s and 70s. This particular one was put together by a local school teacher that we had here. There was a school teacher in our district for decades. And of course, the photo album, the sticky photo album itself is from about the 1960s or 70s, but the photographs that she put in them are her school photographs from the 1920s and 30s.
Oh.
And none of them have any names on them.
Of course.
And so if you have photographs in these types of albums or scrapbooks in these albums or anything, I would highly encourage you to take what's in there out. Now, there's a process to that. You don't just start taking them out. First of all, if they'll come out, you either will have one of two things. Either when you open the book, they'll just literally fall out because the glue has just gotten not gluey anymore. That's really what you would want to have, because the opposite direction is that because they deteriorate and they become so sticky, it's almost impossible to get anything off of them. And so you want to take them out. If your ancestor put these together, one of the first things that we learn as an archivist is original order. An original order is when you look at something like a photo album or a scrapbook, or even a diary or a set of records, you look to see if there is an original order that the creator has imposed on it, like a chronological order or some other kind of order. So when you're doing something like that, try to keep them in the same order as you take them out, because there may be a story there that has to do with that order that you don't really realize on the surface, and you may find out later. And so if you mix it up, then you've lost that story.
Melissa, can I make a suggestion?
Go right ahead.
I think at this point, it's really good to go ahead with your cell phone and take a picture of the pages as they were, so that you know how you can reconstruct them.
Yeah, we encourage either that or put it on a flatbed scanner. And you digitize from the front, first page to the last page, and you even digitize the blank pages. That's the same for scrapbooks, for diaries. You digitize because that shows you the entirety of the book. But so that's what you want to do. But if you have one of these and whatever's in it is just not coming off the pages, it is really stuck, you have a couple of options. And the first option is to get dental floss.
I've done that.
Yes, and you need to get the unwaxed, unflavored dental floss. And then you take the dental floss and you run it between the photograph and the album page to try to loosen that and to get those off. Now, there are instances where I've used dental floss and it did not work. It just was not coming off. I don't know what kind of glue that those things were made of, but it was. So there is a second option. And it doesn't always work, but it might work. You can take your album. I actually would encourage you to take the book apart if you can get like individual pages, but keep them in order, and put those pages in the freezer.
Oh.
The freezer sometimes will freeze the glue in between the photo and the album, and they may come off. But those are the two options to use. And if those don't work, if they are truly there, then we encourage people to just leave it alone and just archive it that way. And so, but these, please don't buy these albums and use them. I mean, I know a lot of scrapbookers like to use them, but if you're going to use them for something like that, make really good copies of your photos and documents and put the copies in there. We never want to use original stuff for our scrapbooking. So that's number one. The most, I think, question that I get the most is about these kinds of albums. And I'm going to share my screen again. Can you see that?
Yes, I was just going to ask you about those. Oh,
this is actually, this is one of those black paper photo albums that archivists love to hate again. And this is actually my hand. I'm holding these. And you see I'm wearing gloves. This is my opportunity to tell you the controversy or the debate about gloves. In the archives world, we've gone back and forth over the years. Do you wear gloves? Do you not wear gloves? And so for a long time now, the decision is that you only wear gloves when handling photographs. And that's because if you're wearing gloves and you're handling documents, especially delicate documents, you can't feel, you don't have any tactile sensation in your fingers. And so you can't feel how you're holding the document. You could actually cause more damage if you are holding a document with gloves. But you can wear the traditional white cotton gloves. I find that those get really dirty really easy. And so you can also use the nitrile gloves. But if you use nitrile gloves, get the powder-free kind. A lot of those come with powder in them to help you put them on and take them off. But the powder inside of them is not archival, and you don't want to get the powder on anything. And if you're allergic to latex, you can get latex-free ones. But anyway, here are those black ones. You can use the dental floss method to try to get the photographs off. I don't know where they got the glue back then, but the glue is, I've never seen glue stick so well on these black paper albums. Hopefully, if you have these black paper albums, you have your ancestor actually used corners, photo corners, and not paste. This particular album I worked on, they pasted these photographs in there really, really well. And a lot of genealogists want to get these photographs off because they think that there's writing on the other side.
yes.
And there may be writing on the other side. Now, what I have done, and I did this in an archive setting, so I'm not suggesting you do this. This particular album, we removed all of the photographs because the album itself was falling apart. And we removed all the photographs. However, a lot of the black paper stuck to the back of the photographs. And we use what was called a micro spatula, and I can get a picture of that and show that to you. And we very delicate, I say we, it was me, very delicately scraped off the black off of the off the back of the photographs. There was writing on some of them, and most of them didn't have writing on the back. So you can do that. It's very delicate work, and you can damage photographs if you're not careful. But if you find that you can't get the photographs off, we just suggest that you take some archival tissue paper and interweave in between the pages after you've digitized it. And then you store it in an archival box with archival tissue paper. It's very simple.
So I have a question about this as well. So I've seen some photo albums like that from my mother-in-law, and I can't tell whether the machinery they used to cut photos was not symmetrical or whether people used to just literally take scissors, like whether they were self-cropped. If I see things that aren't really 100%, trying to think of the word,
square,
geometric, the edges aren't straight or square. Does that mean that someone did it themselves, or were the picture the way they came off? However, and I'm thinking about the 30s and 40s.
Actually, believe it or not, some of the photograph studios actually did that, because I've seen many of those done that way. And you think, well, that's somebody just doing that. Well, when you see different families or different organizations have the same thing, you kind of come to the conclusion that it's the photograph studio that did it. And why, I don't know, but they did.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And the third thing I have, and then we'll go to what you guys have got, is this. And I'll show you. There we go. Can y'all see that? Okay, this is what I have. I do Tennessee and Kentucky research. So this is my Tennessee and my Kentucky county maps, and I keep it on my desk so that I can reference it really quick. But you can see that I have laminated it. Okay. Okay. We do not want to laminate anything. Okay. Now this is just a piece of paper that I printed off the computer, so we can laminate it, but we don't want to laminate anything. When lamination came into practice in the 1950s or 60s, archivists thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, and they started laminating everything. Even the National Archives started laminating some of our founding documents. And then they realized that the chemicals in the laminating sheets and the laminating process were very detrimental to documents. And so probably since the late 1990s, many archives have been starting to delaminate their documents, which is a very arduous process.
Wow.
So do not laminate.
How do you delaminate anything? It must be
yeah, it's very difficult. They use heat, they use some very safe chemicals. I would not encourage anyone to do it on their own, but to contact your conservator if you have a very important or historical document that's been laminated. People think that laminating is the way to go. Recently we had a gentleman who donated his father's World War II uniform and all his World War II documents and photographs, and he had laminated all of the documents and the photographs. And so we're like, oh, thank you. Because,
they just didn't know. I mean, they thought they were doing the
absolutely.
right thing.
And so, but if you have stuff that's laminated, I mean, it'll take a long time, but it will eventually start to yellow. And the paper in between the laminating sheets will start to yellow. It will start to degrade, and it will get really, really bad. So don't laminate. That's my telling you, just don't do it. So, but with that, we'll see what does everybody bring with them tonight so that I can.
I want to see what Laura brought, because Laura wouldn't share with us what she brought before we started. So we want to see what she brought.
Okay. I've got a couple of things. This first thing, this is, I don't know if it's an actual full blouse or an over blouse that I think my paternal grandmother wore, but it's very short-waisted. And it's very sheer. So last time I talked to you about my grandpa's army uniform, you said get it off the coat hanger.
Yes.
So I took that advice across the board. Anything that I had on a coat hanger.
Yes.
I really, part of my question is, there's preserving and then there's sharing and, enjoying. I don't think anybody in my family, well, my niece is 5 foot even, will ever wear this. I don't know, how to preserve it in such a way that it's not just an archive paper in the bottom of a drawer forever. And I probably would not do a shadow box and put it on my wall. Is there anything in between those two options?
Well, the thing is that if you want it to be out in display, you have to be very conscious of sunlight, because sunlight will destroy it. What can you tell what material it is? Because that's just going to depend on how you preserve it.
No, I cannot.
Is it cotton? Is it silk? Can you tell?
It's not silk. It's probably.
Is it linen? Looks like it's linen.
It's probably linen.
Okay. Linen is treated a lot like cotton. And so the reason I'm asking that is because many of you may not know that when you are purchasing archival tissue paper, there are two kinds of archival tissue paper. There is buffered and there is unbuffered. And buffered tissue paper contains an alkaline substance that actually serves as a buffer between the material and the tissue paper to keep acid from getting to your materials. Unbuffered tissue paper does not have that alkaline substance, and we use unbuffered tissue paper with anything that's made from animal products, such as leather, anything with feathers, and anything made with an animal product. So you want to use unbuffered because that alkaline substance it reacts to the animal product. So that's linen, and so we can treat it with archival tissue paper that is buffered. As far as, if you're wanting to put it on some sort of display, to be honest with you, what you could do is you could use a photo box or some sort of a photo setup. If you had, like a mannequin or a model, and take really good museum quality photographs. And then I would display the photographs.
Ah.
Oh, I actually know someone who bought a mannequin set for a play. Mary and Joseph stood still that year in the play.
Right.
I might could
Yeah.
I
If you
want
look
to
at
show
online,
too how cool the sleeves are. Like they had this little part
yes,
that turned down and
yes,
all.
and the embroidery on the edges is probably hand done.
It looks like the lace was like hand tatted.
Yes.
See how
Yeah.
Right.
so and
Because
then
if you look at archives or museums that have online exhibits or displays, that is how they are able to show people garments and things like that, is that they put them on a mannequin or they put them on a live model, and they take photographs in a 360-degree round so that you can see it and you can kind of almost experience it without having to be there. So that's what I would suggest that you do, and put that in. You can frame it, put it on the wall, put it on display. But I definitely wouldn't display the garment itself.
okay. Now the next question I have, so my parents lived in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and they used their attic, which was hot and humid, for storage, which is why a lot of things. Now, this that was my grandmother's was actually taken care of. For some reason, my mother put her wedding veil just balled up in a box. And we recently, and y'all know, but my parents were killed in car wrecks. And so everything, just boxes came down to my sister's house or mine. And some of the things we didn't go through. So this was like, the top of it's this cute little, I don't know what you call it. It's not really a hat, but it's got little vase, a little daisy lace on it. But this part is kind of destroyed. So
you can
I
actually
don't
fix that. You can actually fix that.
Can you?
You can. What you would need to do is you need to get out your ironing board and iron. And if you're like me, mine's been put away for decades. But if you,
I'm not like you.
I have one.
I buy clothes that I don't have to iron. So, but if you get out your ironing board and iron, and then you put it, you put it on your ironing board, and you get a towel or something like that, and you can put your iron on warm, not hot and not cool, but warm. And if you put that in between the towel and the iron, or sorry, put that down and put the towel on top and then iron it, the steam and everything should steam it to where it'll come out.
What about
not
a
wrinkled.
steamer? I have a steamer.
You can, yes, you can use a steamer, but I would encourage you to put something in between the steamer and the material, because that will ensure that it just doesn't all of a sudden just, gets damaged. If you put that in between there, you can control the steam, you can control the heat, and it should be good. The main thing you have to worry about with something like that is yellowing. Is it yellowed at all?
It's not as yellowed as her dress is. Like, she also had her dress is very yellowed.
Yeah. I have my mother and father's actually their cake topper from their wedding cake, and it's got a lot of that stuff. You've seen cake toppers and what it all's on it. That plastic actually is yellowing that they used, and so there's not really anything you can do about the yellowing once it's there. But and then when you want
gosh, I can't think of what it is. I recently read about something you can do, but I can't remember what it was. But I think it wasn't heirloom quality plastics. It's just like plastics around the house that are yellow.
Yeah. And then if you're wanting to store that, of course, after you get the wrinkles out, you want to, because you can't store it flat. That's what we encourage people to do, is store it flat. I mean, you could get a custom made box and store it flat with the whole thing out. You could do that. And I've seen archives that have veils like that have stored them in a long box, and they store it flat so it doesn't wrinkle. People ask me all the time, well, I can't find a box. Well, any of the online archival stores such as Gaylord or Archival Method or Light Impressions, they make custom boxes. If you talk to them, email them, call them, it's going to cost and you got to pay for it, but they make custom boxes. So don't tell me you can't find a box. You can get one made.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my wedding dress is completely preserved and has been under my bed since 1988.
Yep, I've got mine all in a box.
Mine is my cousin
I didn't
actually.
keep my wedding dress.
Oh, come
You
on.
keep yours? Oh gosh, Dan. There was always the hope that a daughter would want to use it, but they want
Yeah,
their
when
own
we had those
style.
big puffy sleeves, I don't know, there's
Yes.
hardly anything from the 80s that anybody's going to want to emulate.
Nope.
I had big puffy sleeves and I had a hat. It's a great big hat. But yeah,
Ooh.
my cousins, the girl that he married, they didn't have money for a dress, so she borrowed my dress. The next year my husband and I got married in 88, and then they got married in 89. And as a gift for me for letting her use the dress, they had it hermetically sealed and everything, and so it's in the box since 1989.
Mine too. Mine's sealed in the box.
What
Is that
year
all
did
you got,
get
Laura?
married, Cheri? Were you part of the big sleeve wedding dress? What year did you?
Yeah, it was at the end of 78, 79. So I was coming into that 80s stuff, long, 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 long veil. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's pretty.
yeah, but
Okay, it's someone else's turn now.
I'm gonna let Dan go.
All right. Well, I've
Dan,
got
you never know.
right. Well, I have two sort of related items. So I was trying to think of like what do I have that would be kind of outside of the box, no pun intended. One of them's actually still in the box, but that isn't paper, that isn't cloth, that isn't something. And so I have my dad's Swiss Army knife from when he was in the Boy Scouts in the 1950s.
Yes, I've got a couple of those laying around. Yeah.
So it still opens.
Yeah.
So it's still hasn't run out of sharp yet.
Good.
And so
Run
so
out
anyway,
of sharp? Is that what you said?
yeah, it hasn't run out of sharp. So and so it
I love how
still
Dan
has
says
the
things.
loop to hook it onto your belt and all kinds of stuff. And so my dad gave this to me, and then he also gave me this. So this is his compass. So this is the original box. And so you open that, it's got a picture of Boy Scout on the front. It just says the official Boy Scout compass. And then inside is the compass, and then the instruction manual is still in there, the original instruction manual. My dad wrote his name on the back, last name on the back, and then here is the compass. It no longer points north. So whatever direction you're going is north, according to this compass. So this is the original compass. The compass itself is plastic with a metal ring. Obviously, they didn't want to have too much metal on a compass, but so it's made out of plastic. But this is original. I haven't been able to find a year. So I've got the original instructions, and you can still very carefully open it up.
Wow, I love that.
I love that the instructions are still there.
And it tells you how to use a compass.
I would need that. I can get lost in a box with directions and a compass. So
anyway, this is the Taylor Instruments Company. Has the patent number on the side. The order number. I mean, this is the original box that it came in. So
neat.
So how do I preserve it? Right now, I have it in a box that I keep up there, where my finger is.
Up there, huh?
Yeah. So
place to tell you not to put them.
It's in a place that is safe from 6-year-olds.
That's good. That's very good.
Because these are not toys. So.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. Is the knife is it made of the outside of it? Is it bone or any kind of an animal, or is it plastic, or do you know?
I'm pretty sure it's plastic.
Okay.
So it's I do have some bone stuff that he had made in Boy Scouts, but
the most important part with something like that, especially knives, is they definitely do not need to be exposed to any kind of moisture, because they will rust. And people say, oh, well, stainless steel doesn't rust. Yes, it does. I'm sorry. Enough moisture, it will rust. because I have taken boxes of records from our county out of storage that had stainless steel paper clips, and guess what? They rusted. So enough moisture, it will rust. So that's the problem. That's the one thing you need to really take care with that knife. If moisture gets to it, those blades will rust and it will be awful. But other than that, honestly, you just need to have some archival tissue paper and a small box. Lightly wrap it in that and put it in the box and put it in a cool, dark, dry place. Easy. Now, the compass. One thing I would encourage you to do is to take out the directions. As you can see when you were opening it, how delicate it was to open because it's been opened and closed and opened and closed so many times that those folds are probably starting to fail. That's why I encourage people to flatten as much as you can, especially like old letters, old family letters that have been opened and closed and opened and closed. Those creases that have been made, the more you do that, the fibers in the paper are breaking down every time you do that. And one time you open it, it's just going to fall apart. So we need to flatten. So I would encourage you to flatten your instructions so that they survive and put them in an archival sleeve. And then take, I would actually leave the compass in the box like it is and take just a small piece of archival tissue paper just so that if moisture does try to get to it, it's protected, and wrap it in that and put it back in its original box. And then you can put it in with the knife if you want to and put it in a box by itself. If you put it in the archival box and it's moving around, just take some more archival tissue paper, crumple it up, put it around there so it doesn't move. But most importantly, you need to digitize it. People don't think about photographing their artifacts and their heirlooms because, God forbid that your house burns down or something happens to it, at least you have the essence of it by digitizing it, by taking photographs of it. And so that's what we do in the archives with our artifacts and those three-dimensional objects like that. We photograph it from every side and document it. Oh, and I was going to tell you too, you said you didn't know how old or what year the compass was. Maybe look to see, because we are researchers, look to see if the company is still in business and maybe you can contact them or look up the patent number and see, maybe you can get something from that.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. That's why she's the expert.
It's funny. People get so nervous about archiving things and what to do. And really, less is more. You really don't have to do a whole lot of stuff to things to archive them. For the most part, you can get away with archival tissue paper and archival boxes, or archival sleeves. That's really all. You don't need to buy a bunch of specialty stuff unless you you have your veil. I would encourage you to get a really long box and archive it that way. But
well, I would love it. I would love to see it if Laura gets it ironed or steamed and get that. I'd love for her to show it to us, maybe send a picture, and then I could put a picture on this on the blog post. I know you're not gonna be able to get it done by the time the blog comes out, but
come on.
I can always update
priorities here. Priorities.
I can update it and put that on there. I think that would be really, really cool. So, well, let me show you what I brought. This is a dress that supposedly belonged to my paternal grandmother. She was born in 1921. And it looks like a dress maybe she would have worn, oh gosh, at least over a year old, maybe almost two, because they wore them not real short, but it wasn't where it would be down to the floor on her at that point. But I have if I can share my screen, I have a photo that I believe may be her wearing this dress because it's the lace.
Look.
The lace and everything on it is so similar. And then the little puffy sleeves with her little fat arms, the lace.
It looks like a little baby doll.
And the little similar lace at the top. So I believe that this is the same dress. But here's the problem. And as you can see, let me stop the screen share. It's turning that brown, rusty, and it's got a little tiny hole in it. And I'm like, oh. So, and I think maybe there might have been something right there on it. well, it might be, I don't know if it's almost like there was something there at one time that's come off. And anyway, what can I do with this? How can I, what would you do?
I do a whole presentation on preserving your ancestors' textiles. And so one of the things I really emphasize is that you have to understand what you have. And so just like I asked Laura, what type of material is it?
I really do believe this is linen.
Linen, okay. It looked like linen as you're holding it. At first I thought it was silk, but then I thought, no, that's linen.
Yeah, it's very lightweight. You can see through it.
Yes.
I really do believe that this is linen. I mean, it was 1921. I would think that it would be linen.
With the issues that it has, and if it is, you have to also think about on a scale of how important it is to you to preserve an item. If it is extremely important to you that this is preserved properly, I would actually reach out to a conservator, a textile conservator. And people say, well, how do I find that? Well, contact your state archives. They have conservators on staff. Now, one thing to remember about these conservators on staff at state archives, they work for the state of wherever they're at. So they may not be able to do the work for you as far as a citizen, but they can give you advice, and they can give you a name and contact information of a conservator who probably has their own business or can work and help you with that. So once you've done that, they can actually probably get rid of some of the discoloration.
Wow.
And get some of the stains out of it.
Wow.
It will cost. Obviously, it's going to cost. But if it's, I try to tell people, if it's something that's really, really means something to you and you really want to take care of it, then you can do that. Now, the next thing you need to do is you need to get archival tissue paper. And in your case, if you're going to put it in, when you're going to put it in the box, what I want you to do is I want you to crumple up some of that archival tissue paper, and I want you to put it into the shoulder region.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and that's going to keep the shape of the shoulder region. Those puffy sleeves, you said those puffy sleeves in the photograph. You want to try to keep those puffy sleeves. Now, I know they haven't had that in there, but you can put it in there and maybe bring it back a little bit. And then you just lay it in a archival box with archival tissue paper, and most importantly, store it in a cool, dark, dry place. And people think that has to be, so cold. We don't live in archives. Our houses cannot be that cold like it is in an archives. But the colder, the better. And if you put it in a dark place, it's going to be cooler. But the main thing is that your temperatures and your humidity levels are consistent.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't have to be super, super cold or perfect humidity levels. But if your temperatures and humidity levels, like in attics and basements and outdoor garages and things, they go really high and really cold. That's what's going to destroy your papers, your photographs, and your artifacts. So
I'm thinking it probably would have been in worse condition had it not been in a cedar chest. It was in a cedar chest.
Oh, I get that question. My grandparents and my they stored everything in a cedar chest.
Yeah.
We don't need to store things made of wood. And the reason is because wood secretes chemicals. It has natural chemicals in it that it will off gas. And so I know that, it's one of those things, a cedar chest that was made for me to put all my, a dowry in, and we hear about it all the time, but really wood.
I think it kept the bugs away. I think they did it to keep
it did.
moths and all that away.
And that's good. I will say that in the archives, when we apply for grants and things that we want shelving to get with our grants, one of the requirements is that we do not purchase wood shelving.
Oh,
we have to purchase metal shelving because they don't want us storing our records on wood.
Wow. That is interesting.
So, the other thing I want to tell people about and tell you guys as well. I love the fact that Dan knew where that compass came from and where that knife came from. Because if you're like me and you got a box you found in your parents' home like this, it says Robert Burns Cigarettes. And it's a box. Okay, that's a neat box. When I opened the box, this is the inside of the box. This is what was inside of the box. I have no idea what it is. And it looks like a weapon to me.
Somebody.
It looks like a weapon. And so I put my hand in here. I thought, wow, you could really hurt somebody with that. I don't know what it is. There's no note. There's no nothing. And so when we are archiving our artifacts, we need to put some documentation with it. so that 100 years from now, your descendants know what it is, because from here to there, who's going to know what a compass is? Maybe they don't use compasses anymore. And who it belonged to, how you got it, what's the history. So I have this box and I have this thing. And I don't know, I know that came from my grandparents' house, my grandmother and grandfather Bartram. I know who they came from.
Was he in the military?
He was.
So, I don't know where all they are. I know, like, around Gettysburg, there's all these historical shops where they identify different military things. I just wonder if you could send a picture to
he was in World War
a
II.
military museum, and they might know what it is.
But this is an example of what is this, and was it even his? Did it belong to his dad? Who? So anyway, but here's an example of, I know exactly what it is, and I've documented it. This is a little bag. It's not that old. It's from the 1970s. My grandmother, who lived with me from the time I was 3 till a few months after I got married and she passed away, loved bingo. She loved to go play bingo. She carried her bingo daubers and her bingo everything in this bag. And so to me, this is very special.
Yeah.
Somebody else would be like, it's a bag,
Yeah.
It's very 70-esque.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, it definitely is.
But this is very special to me. This is very special to me because she was special to me. And so I have written up and I have put inside, I don't have it in there now, but I have put inside of this bag the story of what this is, who it belonged to, my memories of her, because I would go to play bingo with her. And then Tennessee outlawed bingo, so go figure. Poor old ladies can't go play bingo.
Of something that won't get thrown away versus something that might get thrown away because nobody knows what it is, because everybody's gonna. I just had this this summer having to go through my mom and dad's house. It's been almost 4 years since my dad passed away, but my mom ended up having to move in with us because of health reasons, and we had to sell her house. Well, I couldn't put everything from her house into my house. And so we had to go through that process of, what is this? And is it important? And it was really difficult. It was really, really difficult. And it made me sit back and think, one day somebody's going to have to go through my house and get rid of things. And so, and these are things that make me happy. These are things that make me happy. So it's okay for me to have all these things. I'm not saying you shouldn't have things. If your things make you happy and it reminds you of your family, by all means, have them and keep them. But if you don't want something to happen to them, if you don't want your children and your grandchildren understanding the value, do what Melissa's saying. Make sure you preserve them and write their story. Let people know what they are. So at least there's a chance that hopefully somebody in the family will say, oh my gosh, I want that. My daughter took my mom and dad's kitchen table because they had it's not even really an antique. It was from the mid-70s when they moved from England, from the Air Force to New Mexico, and they needed a kitchen table. And so they went down to an unfinished furniture store and they finished it themselves. But over the years, there's a map that's drawn in it from somebody's homework. There's all these tiny little things in it.
It's got family history.
Yeah. And my daughter says, I can't let that go. Now, it may be a time where she will, but she couldn't let it go. So they put a game room in their garage into a game room. So the kids sit on that table now and play games. And so just things like that she can tell the story about that table. So
I'm asked all the time by people who say, my children, my grandchildren are not interested in any of this stuff. And so my advice to them is this, is that I want you to look at what you have. Now, I mean, to us, it's all very important. This thing here that I don't know what it is, and this bag, it's all very important to me. But you do need to look at this and go, okay, is this historically significant? Is it historically significant to a particular area? And then I want you to really try hard to try to donate those things while you're living. If you really know that if your kids are going to come in, they're just going to throw it away. It's hard for us to let go of our things, but if they have some historical significance, or you think that a local museum would be interested in it, try to work with them and try to get it donated now. Next is, tell your children. They're not interested in it, but tell your children. Put it in your will. Put it in your final requests of where you want things to go. But you need to do it now, because once you're gone and your children and your grandchildren come in, they're going to go, oh, this is garbage, and throw it away. And so I've seen it happen over and over.
We all have. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, so when my sister and I inherited a whole house from my parents, it wasn't that and in fact, we kept a whole bunch of it, but we really didn't know what had emotional value and what had other value, because my parents both traveled. Was this something they picked up for $2 at the airport?
Yeah.
Or was this something that they really liked? And I'm so glad we've kept a lot of it. I have right here, this is a walking stick that was my dad's. And I was doing one of my mom's travel journal, and she wrote about the day that she and Dad went to a wildlife sanctuary in New Zealand, and how Dad fell in love with this. So, but I'm just lucky that I'm a squirrel and that I saved it for all these years before I found it, because I think it's also good for us to tell our offspring what we value emotionally, or why we value things, and what would be okay to get rid of. Like, we have a very ugly bookshelf in our bedroom, and it's what all the World Book encyclopedias were on in the hallway growing up.
Yes, we had that.
And so, it's tilted the right way. I don't care if they don't keep it, but I'm keeping it because it has some nice, and it doesn't have any memories for my boys. So I think to have those conversations is really important.
Yeah.
And then on a lighter note, Cheri, your picture of your grandmother in that dress.
Yes.
So in my grandmother's house was a picture of my dad as a baby, and they put all children in those gowns to do portraits.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he had my sister and I convinced for quite a few years that was a picture of him when he had been a little girl. And that was his proof.
It sounds like a dad thing.
Would I have been wearing a dress? And if it wasn't for hearing my mom in the background saying, "Lloyd."
That is so cool.
Well, we like to digitize our documents and our photographs and put them on our family trees online or in our family databases or whatever. But are we doing that with our artifacts?
Yeah,
with our three-dimensional objects?
Yes.
I think that's kind of why they get thrown away, is because we don't place the importance on them like we do our documents and our photographs. Children and grandchildren will look at those documents and photographs and go, oh, these are important, Mom, really, But if you don't do that with other things, like I was talking about, take photographs of it, and go online to some online museums and some online archives that have online exhibits and look at their photographs. They're not just a snapshot of a two-dimensional, you can't tell anything about it. They take the photographs in such a way that you can actually see that it's three-dimensional.
Right.
And that brings those objects to life and gives them more of a purpose. And so, we should be
putting those pictures.
And when you put them online, just like documents and photographs, when other researchers come along and they see those on your trees or on your blogs or wherever you're putting them, believe it or not, they may make a connection.
Sure.
And so I'm a firm believer in sharing everything. Anybody that goes to my online trees, they can take and do whatever they want to with whatever I got on there, because if I didn't want it to be shared, I wouldn't have put it on there. But yeah, we should be doing the same thing with our heirlooms.
It reminds me of, I've told you guys a story before that my mother's father died on the island of Heirloom during World War II, and she was 3 years old, and so she didn't ever know him. Well, it turns out that there was a bowl in my grandmother's hutch with all of her china and all that my mom didn't even know what it was growing up. It was just always this little yellow bowl that was in there. And my grandmother ended up telling me, because I was asking the questions, why is this bowl in here? Does it match any of the china? That's the bowl she made his breakfast in every morning. And she kept that bowl, which is interesting to us because so many other things she threw away, his letters, so many things, but yet she kept this bowl. And maybe it was less intrusive. She says she threw away the letters because she felt like she was being, disloyal to her new husband. But he probably never thought anything about this yellow bowl.
Right? She didn't tell him where that little bowl come from.
Probably. So now I've got the china hutch and I've got the bowl, and I've told my kids, my mom had no idea what that was. And now she just loves knowing that her father, that she has just a few memories of, used to touch that bowl. And so that's something I need to take a real good picture of and put on my trees so that people can see that.
And I have people that come to me and they are very overwhelmed because they have a lot of stuff, or they've inherited a home like you talked about.
Yes.
And I'm not one of those that you have to save everything. I know we can't save everything.
No.
But if your family, if your mother or your grandmother or someone told you the story of something, then, that was important to them.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that we should try to preserve those kind of things.
Right.
Like I said, I just think that if we document it and we share it, it gets out there.
Yeah.
And just like our trees.
It makes the people more real too, to see something that they touched. The last time I went to the house that my great grandmother lived in, the grandfather that died in World War II went to his parents' house, the house they lived in. My mom's cousin showed me a big wooden bowl, and it's the big wooden bowl that my great grandmother made her biscuits in every morning. And so I've got a really nice picture of this big wooden bowl. I mean, I'd love to go in the house and say I'd like that and I'd like this, because I don't know what's going to happen to all this stuff, when she passes away. But I took a really nice picture of it in the kitchen, where she would have made those, and it makes her seem real. Now, I knew her, but when I knew her, she was not all there. She was in her mid to late 80s, and she just is different. As we talk about, we don't think about our grandparents or great grandparents as being young and alive and, and all this, and so it makes her more tangible to me to see something, to hold something that she used to hold. So
and like I said, you don't have to keep everything. And and these things, it tells those stories that we're seeking as genealogists. I know, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm that type of genealogist that I want to know everything about my ancestors.
Me too.
I want to know if they had for breakfast. I want to know their hobbies. Well, I think that we kind of overlooked with our closest generations, such as our parents and our grandparents, things like this bag. I mean, it's totally insignificant, but you know what? It tells a character about my grandmother that I could not read in any document.
Exactly. I've got my grandmother's hats that she used to wear.
And I think that is what brings our ancestors and our family to life. And if we don't document them, then it's just forgotten. It's gone.
Exactly. And Dan now knows, his dad was your dad, right? He was obviously loved the Scouts and loved to go camping. And it was important.
We actually, oh goodness, stupid video. We actually have a photograph of him at D-Bar Scout Ranch here in Michigan. See, I'm talking. Like the second or third year it was open. It opened in 1955, so this would have been like 58 or so. And my boys and I were there for a summer encampment. And we walked from cabin to cabin until we found what we think is the cabin that the photo was taken in front of. And then we recreated the photograph with my son.
That's so much fun.
And so we actually had to borrow another scout troop because we didn't have enough scouts in our troop. And so we recreated it, and we put my son exactly in the position that my dad was in. And my dad was a goofball and had like the first three buttons unbuttoned. Yeah, the first three buttons of his shirt were unbuttoned, so his chest was exposed. He's 50. His sleeves were rolled up, and so my son did that with his scout uniform, like unbuttoned it and had it open. And then so we recreated this photograph with my son where his grandfather was in the exact same pose, exact same position, and like we posed everybody in
Neat.
this photograph,
Oh,
and
that's
then
wonderful.
we scanned the original, and then we printed it off, so it was one long photograph side by
Oh,
side, and then gave that to my dad. And then we also gave a copy of it to the DBRA Scout Ranch, and so they have it up in their museum. So
Oh,
they have a
neat.
copy of
Yeah, that's great.
with 3 generations of one family having gone to DBRA since 1955. So
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Laura, I've got one question to ask you about that shirt. You said it was your grandma's. Is it the famous grandma or a different grandma?
It is supposedly. Now, I'm not positive that it is because I just look at the size and but yeah, that's the famous grandma that told a few stories.
Yes. I had wondered that.
Our grandparents were human too.
Yep, exactly. They were human too. So this
That's
has
right.
been so much fun. This
Well,
has been
good.
so much. And Melissa wants you to know that if you've got something that you would like for her to look at, feel free to post it in the comments. You can send her an email. Her information is in our either in the blog post. You can get a hold of her there, or in the information on the video on YouTube. So she would love to see what you might have, and she can help you out with that. So this has been so much fun. Ask the archivist. We can never stump her. We can never stump her, but we don't try. But
we don't want to stump her. We want her wisdom.
That's right. And she does. She's got wonderful wisdom. So thank you, Melissa. This has been so much fun. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to see if I can do something with this, because to me, it's just, I wish I knew about this when she was still alive so that she could really talk to me about it. But of course, like everything else, you find these things after they've passed away. And it was in my aunt's, at my aunt's house in my grandmother's, her little chest that she had there. So along with a few other things, but anyway, so thank you so much. I know you've helped me, and I know you've helped people watching, and yeah, it would be great if you leave some comments and ask questions about things, and Melissa would be glad to talk to you about that. So with that, we will see you next time on GenFriends. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Didn't stop it.